as a luxury is not to decorate yourself. It is to become a living symbol, to embody something unforgettable, something archetypal. You must ask yourself, what myth do I represent in the eyes of others? What atmosphere do I bring with me? What images do I awaken when I walk into a room? Are you the healer who brings calm, the sovereign who commands space, the muse who awakens inspiration? People will not remember every word you say, but they will remember how you made them feel, what parts of themselves you stirred. Your task, then, is not to impress, but to embody. Curate your presence as one would craft a sacred icon. Speak not to be heard, but to be felt. Choose words that carry weight, even in silence. Dress not for trend, but for timelessness. Your appearance, your tone, your gestures, they are all brushstrokes in the painting of your myth. I once knew a woman named Maya who understood this intuitively. She never followed trends, she wore no logos, but her presence turned heads. Her wardrobe was a ritual. On days when she faced hard negotiations, she wore deep crimson, a color that spoke of rooted strength. On softer days, she chose ivory and pearl, tones that carried grace and peace. She did not need to tell people she was powerful, her colors whispered it. Her silence confirmed it. People began to speak about her differently. They described her as elegant, untouchable, refined. But what they were really responding to was not clothing, it was coherence. She knew who she was, and her choices aligned with that knowing. That is what creates myth, when your inner reality and outer expression mirror each other without apology. To own the myth of you is not to invent a persona, it is to strip away the noise until your essence stands revealed, dressed in metaphor. When you do this with honesty and care, people don't just see you, they sense you. You become less a person and more a presence. That is the secret of luxury. It is not worn, it is lived. It is the sacred act of becoming the story others cannot stop remembering. There is a quiet and unspoken truth about the nature of desire. We do not chase what is always in reach. The psyche is drawn toward what feels elusive, what must be earned, what cannot be summoned on command. Rarity, in its truest form, evokes reverence. What is common, even if beautiful, becomes background noise to the soul. This is why luxury is not defined by abundance, but by absence, by its ability to withhold, to resist overexposure, to stand just beyond reach, whispering its value without ever having to declare it. In the realm of human relationships, we often confuse kindness with availability and connection with constant access. But when your presence becomes too easily acquired, when your yes flows freely without discernment, your energy begins to lose its edge. What was once admired becomes expected. What was once felt as sacred becomes mundane. To be perceived as rare, you must learn the art of boundaries, not as armor, but as sacred architecture. When you decide that not every invitation deserves your time, not every conflict your reaction, and not every conversation your full emotional output, something shifts. Your silence begins to echo louder than your words once did. There was once a man I knew, always present in every circle. He was kind, agreeable, and responsive. He answered texts within seconds, attended every gathering, and offered his opinions before they were even requested. People liked him, but strangely they never truly saw him. He had become part of the background. One day, after a season of exhaustion, he quietly withdrew. No announcements, no grand exit. He simply chose solitude. A month passed, then 2. When he returned, he didn't speak more, he spoke less. He no longer explained himself or filled silences. His gaze was slower, his responses delayed, but the effect was undeniable. People leaned in closer. They began to ask questions with real curiosity. Invitations became more intentional. His absence had created space, and in that space, his value multiplied. This is the paradox of rarity. It is not about playing games or creating artificial distance. It is about recognizing that your time, your energy, your presence, they are currency. And currency must circulate with purpose, not impulsively. When you know your value, you no longer fear being missed. You expect it. You understand that in the silence you leave behind, others will begin to realize what your presence truly meant. Just as diamonds are treasured not for their abundance but their scarcity, your worth shines brightest when you are willing to retreat, to rest, to hold your energy like a sacred offering. Not to be poured out indiscriminately, but to be given with intention. To live this way is not to isolate yourself, but to honor yourself. And when you do, the world begins to treat you accordingly. Not because you asked to be seen, but because you became impossible to ignore. There is an invisible field that surrounds each of us the moment we enter a room. Before we speak, before we are even consciously acknowledged, this field makes its presence known. Some may call it energy, others presence, or simply vibe. But it is more than a feeling. It is the subtle and unconscious atmosphere we command. And just as a luxury space alters your emotional state, a velvet-lined lounge that slows your breath, a cathedral that hushes your thoughts, so too can you become the architect of the emotional space around you. This is the true essence of silent influence. People respond not only to what you say, but to what you transmit. Your body carries it. Your pace of speech reflects it. Your silence amplifies it. You have already taught others how to treat you long before your words form. And so, ask yourself with great honesty, what follows me when I walk in? Do I carry tension like static? Do I stir urgency, or do I instill calm? Do people lean in when I speak, or do they brace for noise? Do they brace for noise? The answer to these questions is not found in the mirror, but in the subtle reactions of others. Tightened shoulders, softened eyes, a sudden pause in conversation. The emotional scent you leave behind is your true calling card. Mastering your atmosphere is not about controlling others, it is about commanding yourself. It begins in the breath. The way you enter a room, the way you move, the cadence of your speech. Luxury does not rush, power does not panic. When you begin to slow your words, leave room for silence, and move with deliberateness, something remarkable happens. Others begin to synchronize with your rhythm. They adjust their tone, their urgency, their emotional posture to match yours. In that shift, your influence takes root, not through force, but through resonance. In negotiation workshops, executives are taught a deceptively simple tactic. After asking a difficult question, they are instructed to say nothing, to wait, to let the silence expand. This pause, though uncomfortable at first, creates space for truth. It unsettles the reactive and invites the thoughtful. That same principle can be lived daily, at home, in conversations with loved ones, at work, in moments of conflict, in moments of uncertainty. Do not fill the space. Let your presence become the container that holds the emotion of the moment without being consumed by it. I have seen people who speak little, yet command great respect, not because they dominate, but because they contain. Their calm is not empty, it is magnetic. Others want to be near it, to borrow it, to understand it. This is how luxury feels, like still water in a noisy world. To command your atmosphere is to become the eye of the storm. While chaos moves around you, you remain rooted, silent, listening. And in that stillness, others find their center too. This is how power truly moves, without needing to prove, without needing to shout. It simply is. There is a quiet and sacred strength in the soul that knows how to let go. True value does not chase, plead, or attempt to convince. It waits in its own stillness and allows itself to be discovered. Just as luxury never screams for attention but rather exists in an elevated state of quiet magnetism, so too must you learn the art of detachment, not as a defense mechanism, but as an expression of deep self-worth. To detach is not to become indifferent, nor is it to harden the heart. It is to rest in the knowing that you are already whole and that nothing outside of you determines your value. Clinging is born from fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of being forgotten, fear that our worth depends on the gaze or approval of another. This fear is subtle, and it wears many disguises. It can look like over-explaining, like checking your phone for a message that never arrives, like replaying conversations in search of hidden meaning. Each of these small acts erodes your dignity, not because you are weak, but because you are momentarily forgotten your center. You forget that your presence is a gift, and when you forget, others will too. Detachment in its highest form is emotional intelligence at work. It is the awareness that you are not here to perform, to be chosen, or to prove your worth. You are here to express, to create, to experience, and to allow those who are aligned with your frequency to find you without force. When you can stand in your truth, when you can walk away without needing the last word, when you can love without gripping tightly, you begin to embody